Good morning. Welcome in. We are the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 1059 The Zone. Man, we've been talking a lot of hoops lately, you know. Obviously, we have Chris Beard in the state. Jan's punched his ticket to the tournament. March Madness, you know how much I love it. I've been to a couple of Final Fours, a bunch of NCAA tournament games, and I think it is the best sporting event. And then we're coming off a couple of great Final Fours, men's and women's. And now we got John Calipari. I mean, I feel like I'm really taking crazy pills. I wake up one day and John Calipari's leaving Kentucky to take the Arkansas job. And Arkansas is a good job. I mean, in the 90s, I'm in school at Mississippi State. Richard Williams takes them to the Final Four, but you know, we would go to all the SEC basketball tournaments, man. When Rick Pitino and Nolan Richardson walked in the building, dude, it was on. And Rick just exuded like star power. I mean, you felt like Sinatra was in the building when Pitino would walk in, regardless of where you were. And Nolan had that presence about him. It was so good. And then, you know, Richard was doing more with less and beating them some, and kind of that third team during that time. It was wild, but I think Pitino brought star power to the SEC. I do. He in hoops, you know, we were a football conference. And then Nolan, you know, what they both did together in the 90s was simply unbelievable. Now look what we have. Look at the depth of coaches in the Southeastern Conference. Crazy. But I never thought Cal would go from Kentucky to Arkansas, and we talked about how many kids will be named Cal in the state of Arkansas here over the next few years. It'll be nuts. The Out of Bounds Show is driven by your next Ford Expedition, Ford Explorer, Mack Hike Ford, I-55 North in Jackson. We're excited to welcome in our next guest, super successful at Mountain Brook High School, several state championships, 333 and 74. Parlays that into the job at Samford, winning big at Samford. Just went to the NCAA tournament, March Madness. They lost to Kansas in a very questionable call in the end. But Bucky McMillan, Bucky Ball, he's done a great job at Samford in Birmingham, and he joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Bucky, good morning. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on the show. I love that intro, the Rick Pitino, Nolan Richardson days. Gave me goosebumps listening to all that. Y'all have me.
Oh, man, we're happy. Look, that was a good time for me. Early, mid-'90s, in being in college and watching those two and Richard Williams, well, those three, and Richard Williams duke it out was a ton of fun. All right, I got to start with who was you play this fun, Bucky Ball, you play this fun style of basketball. And you won an extraordinary level at high school, and you have rebuilt Samford, and you're winning big and winning conference championships and going to the NCAA tournament. So where did you get this style? Who was your mentor as you got in, as either you played or as you got into coaching, Bucky?
Well, one of the guys you just mentioned, I loved being young, and I love watching Pitino's teams play. And I love watching Nolan Richardson's teams play, but I've studied a lot of Rick Pitino. I played for an incredible college coach, a guy who was an assistant coach at Mississippi State a long time ago named Dwayne Reball, and was the head coach of Birmingham Southern. And that's where I played college basketball. He won NAI national championships at Birmingham Southern, and then I played for him when they were D1. And Coach Reball kind of played an up-and-down style when they were NAI. And then when I started coaching when I was 15, 16 years old, coaching AAU, then JV basketball, then varsity basketball before I got to Samford. So I actually had this conversation with someone the other day that with Hurley getting to the Final Four and Keats and then obviously Nate Oates, a lot of high school coaches have had success. And so when we were talking about why do you think that is, and I said, well, if I had to guess, I said Oates and Hurley. I said probably myself, we might have coached more basketball games than anyone coaching college basketball.
That's a good point.
Because in high school, we were coaching 3 teams at once. So you're playing, 30, 40 games a summer. And so anyway, bottom line is we got to do a lot of things through trial and error. And one of those things I got to do was kind of mess with the system I've been kind of coming up with for years, which is kind of an up and down system. And we've had some success with it, but a lot of the coaches, when they step in that college spotlight, it's hard for them to try new things, because if it doesn't work and it's outside the box, everyone's like, hey, no one does this and that didn't work. What are you doing?
Right.
And being a high school coach, we got to try a lot of things in some back gyms where nobody gets to hear our mistakes.
That's a great point. Okay, so we're visiting with Bucky McMillan, head basketball coach at Samford. No telling where he'll be in the next couple of years. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show. So I walk in, Bucky, 1987. I walk in New Orleans to the Final Four. I'm a kid, 13 years old. And it's Rick Pitino in Providence, Bobby Knight, Indiana, Jim Boeheim, Syracuse, and Tart the Shark, UNLV. Obviously and Billy D's the shooting guard for Rick Pitino. But you just made a great point. Rick Pitino was willing to do things that were outliers, and people, I'm sure people along the way told him, Rick, that's not going to work. Okay. You need to run the motion offense. You need to pass the ball 12 times before you shoot, da-da-da-da. And for me as a kid, watching what Tark was doing, getting up and down the court, and then what Pitino was doing as far as launching threes in 1987, my mind was like, I didn't even know what to do. So as a coach, as a young coach, you mentioned you started coaching in high school, and Dwayne Rebold, we'll get to that in a minute, because I got to know him under Coach Richard Williams. But when did you commit to doing this certain style, or did it just evolve over the years?
Well, whenever I started coaching, so I came up as a point guard. When I started playing, I was a point guard. And back when I played, it was kind of one of those deals where, hey, if you went to a suburban school, it was kind of like, hey, you better slow it down and you better try to win in the 30s. And I played for a really good high school coach. We didn't play extremely fast. We played very slow. And I just remember saying, if I ever coach, we're going to play so up and down. It's kind of the rebel in me, like, hey, we're going to take a lot of threes and we're going to play fast and we're going to find a way to win doing that. Because I knew that the more fun you could win, if you find the most fun way to win, the players were going to want to improve, because they were going to get to showcase all the things that they've worked on. And so really just had this desire to find the most fun way to win. And so when we started playing, whenever that was, when I started coaching when I was 15, 16, we played up and down, and we've done it ever since. Now, tweaking that system has just been trial and error, and it's paid off for us, because I think it's paid off with the way we've been able to recruit at Samford. We've had I had 3 recruiting classes. I got hired in the middle of COVID, so I didn't have a recruiting class my first year, and I'm pretty sure we've had the best recruiting class in our league every year. And I think a lot of that has to do with kids want to play fast. Kids want to play fast. We were a top 5 team in the country in scoring. And if you look at Nate Oates at Alabama, they play very fast. And they've had a great season, and they're going to have a really good season next year with the guys that are coming in there for them.
Okay, so you mentioned, scoring in transition. I see your fast break points, top 10 in the country, points per game, top 5 in the country, with Alabama and Kentucky being a couple of teams right there with you. So tell me what your theory is after a missed shot or a made basket, as far as this is what we work on year round with my players getting the ball to the point guard or someone else who can handle it and get it up the floor.
Yeah, we want to be opportunistic. And you mentioned a lot of great coaches right there that you got to see that played fast and were very good, and Tark and Nolan Richardson and Pitino. But, all these, those teams that were coached by those guys, they didn't just play fast without a purpose. They played with a purpose, and they were opportunistic. And so for us, we want to play as fast as we can for good reason. If you study the analytics of basketball, you find out that the best way to score is by getting down the floor before the defense is set up. So in our mind, we want to score in the first 7 seconds by the time we rebound the ball, or by the time the ball goes through the net. And so to do that, we got to run really hard, and we're looking to get to the free throw line. We're looking to get right to the rim. We're looking to get open threes as soon as possible. And obviously, you don't want to take contested shots. You got to run hard so that you can get the right ones. Now, defensively, we pressure. So if it's a made shot or a missed shot, and we're looking to pick up and we're going to press, we're going to trap a lot and dictate tempo that way. And, some teams do that and some teams do it when they're down. We kind of stick with it the whole game. And it's been really good for us, particularly at our home games. The fans have really been great for us, and they've rallied around it. We were 18-0 at home this year. And I think you find teams that get up and down and you look at their home record, it's usually going to be pretty good because the fans are rallying around it. So that's what we do. Hey, there's more than one way to do it.
Sure.
But it's worked for us, that's for sure.
You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're visiting with Bucky McMillan, head basketball coach at Samford. They just went to the NCAA tournament. He has turned that program around after winning several championships at Mountain Brook and building them into a powerhouse. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Yeah, I think, what was it called? 40 Minutes of Hell under Nolan. So you like to pressure on both ends. I mean, you want to pressure after a missed shot or a made shot, but then you want to pressure after you make a shot, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, we want to run when we have the ball, and we want to make the other team run when they have the ball. We kind of call that, we want to put them on the defense when they're on offense. And that's because we're attacking them defensively when we're guarding them. And then obviously when we have the basketball, we want to be trying to push the ball as quickly as possible to create as many possessions as possible. And that's one thing that we're able to recruit to is number of possessions. And one year we led the country in possessions per game. We're like 185 for our team. And we were playing against some teams in our league that were going to be at 120 possessions per game. And so think about that as a fan. If I'm a fan and I got to go to a basketball game and it really it was so up and down the entire game that you got to see more basketball, it creates more scoring opportunities. And as a player, you get more scoring opportunities, more rebound opportunities, more assist opportunities. So it makes it, easy to recruit to. And when you can recruit, obviously we know the most important thing in recruiting and success is having great players, and great players want to be in a system more than likely that they feel that they can win, but they feel that they're going to have opportunities to do well for themselves and statistically. And obviously the more possessions you have, the better chance you have to do that.
Bucky McMillan, Samford head basketball coach on the Out of Bounds Show. What about, okay, you mentioned Nate Oates and your style, his style. What do you think about the mid-range? Because Oates is like, we need to be shooting threes or we need to be 3 to 4 feet away from the rim and shooting layups and so on, or dunking the basketball. Is that your philosophy too, Bucky?
Well, so that's funny you said that. So Nate was a high school coach a long time ago at Romulus High School. And we kind of have very similar stories that he coached high school forever. Then he got an assistant job, then became the head coach of a college. We kind of studied the game a little bit. There's a guy named Vance Wahlberg who came up with dribble, drive, motion offense. And he came up with the analytics of the game. And he kind of came up with and showed everybody kind of, hey, here's what the analytics of basketball really look like. And they kind of found out that teams were making the mid-range about the same percentage they were making the three. But you get 3 points for the three. And so Nate's philosophy and a lot of people's philosophy is about free throws, layups, and threes right now. And the reason that is, it just analytically has been proven that it's by far the best way to play basketball. Now, not everybody can get a free throw, layup, or three, right?
Right.
It's difficult to do. And that's why, where the coaching comes in is finding ways where you can get those shots. Oates has done an incredible job of doing that, of finding ways to get free throws, layups, and threes. So you're going to see that with all teams. They're going to kind of shift to that philosophy. Now, can they get their team to get those shots? That's a question in and of itself.
Yeah, dead ball scoring. I'd never heard that until this last year plus, and how important that is. So, we're visiting with Bucky McMillan on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. I was listening, Bucky, to an interview with Pitino about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he had some time and he wasn't rushed. I know you guys are rushed all the time, especially in season, and They asked him, "Hey, what is your approach now?" He says, "Funny you say that. It's different than when I was at Providence, or when I was with Hubie Brown as an assistant with the Knicks, or when I left Providence to go back to the Knicks as a head coach, and so on." And then this kind of evolved into what happened at Kentucky and Louisville and so on. And he said, "I coach offense more today." And they were like, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Because of the way the game is played, which you just, walked us through." He said, "We spend more time on the offensive side of the game." And he said, even in pregame walkthroughs, he said it used to be 80, 90% defense. He said, now I got to do 50%, 50% because we have to work on how we're going to score on the opponent. Does that resonate with you, Bucky?
Well, I think now that it was years ago that always the defense won out. Like a great defense is going to beat a great offense, except in the NBA. And the reason that was because the skill level in the NBA was so incredible that you would watch great defensive possessions, but guess what? Michael Jordan's still going to make that fadeaway, And so the offense in the NBA, the great offense would win out versus the great defense. But that wasn't the case in college. It certainly wasn't the case in high school. And if you went all the way down to second grade basketball, we all know that the defense is going to win more than the offense. Well, what's happened now is the skill level of these players has gotten so good that now in college basketball, a good offense will beat a good defense. And so I think players know that. I think coaches know that. And, you watch UConn play, you watch Purdue play, and you see those teams playing the national championship, and you see some great defense. But when these teams are dialed in offensively, there's not really much you can do at times. Coach Pitino is obviously one of the best at adapting, and he's probably recognized that, look, hey, to win this day and age, you're going to have to be able to outscore people.
Right.
And if you're going to win championships, if you're going to win championships, one thing that Dwayne Reball, he's like a father figure to me, incredible coach, who I mentioned I played for in college, he said, if you're going to be a championship level coach, we break it down to 4 phases of basketball: full court defense, half court defense, full court offense, half court offense. Very simple. There's the 4 phases of basketball: full court D, half court D, full court O, half court O. You got to be great at all of them. You got to be great at all of them, because to win a championship, you're going to need them all. And you don't know when you're going to need them all, but you're going to need them all. And so that's why you really want to be balanced in every way. Rick Pitino was probably, in my opinion, the greatest strategist to ever coach basketball.
Agree.
Because I think you could argue that in those 4 phases of basketball, someone could argue who was the greatest at every single phase. Think about that. Think about what I just said there. Someone could argue that he's the greatest full court D coach ever. I would say he was. Someone could argue he was the greatest half court D coach ever, because he could do different things with man, with zone. Others could argue he was the best ahead of his time with full court offense, pushing the ball, shooting threes. And then I know when he was at Louisville in 2013, they were the best offense in the country, which related to half court offense. They scored 1.19 points a possession, and that's massive. Like the next is like 1.1. So that goes to show you, great coaches, they're adaptable, but they're really good at all phases of the game of basketball.
All right. So this is, and it's so much more fun to watch and like you hit on earlier, it's so much, look, a 50-47 win is a win, no doubt. But, man, getting it up and down the court, spacing. And all right, how much do you lock into, because I think this is one of the driving forces, how much do you lock into offensive scoring efficiency?
You lock into it a lot. And, it's kind of, we're going through the transfer portal right now. And we've done a really good job. We won the league last year at Sanford, and we had a team that was really, really a good team. And we had to pick up 7 new players last year, or what's it, 7 or 8 new players last year. And we'll have to do kind of similar this year. And when you're looking at this, a lot of people are going to take the wrong analytical measures in taking a player. There'll be players in this portal right now that are averaging 18, 19 a game that are really not very good basketball players. But they will go way above their level, even though their offensive efficiency numbers are low, but their offensive numbers are high. And so when you're looking at the portal right now, you have to find players who can play efficiently. And that's where it really gets skewed here, because you can be at a level where you're shooting a lot of balls and you're scoring a lot of points, but your efficiency, you could not survive with other good players around you. And that's really what you want. You want efficient offensive players, and you want to get a lot of them together, and you're going to be a really good team. Like when you looked at Calipari's teams when they won the national championship, they had first-round draft picks in there that weren't scoring double figures. And that's because they were efficient players on an efficient team.
Right. All right, Bucky McMillan, Bucky Ball, having tremendous amount of success at Samford and obviously at Mountain Brook prior to that. And he joined us today to talk hoops and offense and all kinds of fun. Dwayne Reboel, I remember him as an assistant coach under Richard Williams, super guy. He was so good to me. Julius Smith, let's see, John Brady, all those guys coming through there, Larry Stacy, and then eventually Rick Stansberry. That was a hell of a group that went through over about a 10-year time between Bob Boyd and Richard Williams. And that I did not realize you played under Dwayne Reboel. What a super guy. Hadn't heard that name in years. Bucky, congratulations on the success. And let's do this again soon. We appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you having me. And one quick side note, John Brady, Dwayne Reboel worked together. And John Brady was a coach of Samford as well. And that while Dwayne Reboel was at Birmingham Southern. Two guys from Mississippi State were right here in Birmingham years ago. So good times. I appreciate y'all having me on the show.
Thanks, Bucky. Take care.
See you.
Bucky McMillan, head basketball coach, hoops coach for Samford. Keep an eye on him. Seriously. I mean, won big at Mountain Brook. We told you he went 333 and 74. And then now the Samford job was bad, y'all. They were awful. And, he's won a couple of conference titles, and they went to March Madness. They went to the NCAA tournament. Some of y'all watched the game like I did between Kansas, and brutal call in the end. Played them toe to. Think about the talent Bill Self has at Kansas, and so. And look, he took from Rick Pitino, and y'all know we always talk Pitino. He'll always have his fingerprints on the show. I mean, I've had Tark the Shark on the show. I think if I had Pitino on the show, I'd just fall over in this chair.
You're good to go, Ricky.
Yeah,
D,
I mean,
man.
John Smoltz, Chipper Jones, Tark the Shark, some others. If I had Rick Pitino on, then it'd just be over. I may have to fly to New York, corner him at St. John's, get him sit down with me for 30 minutes.
You have to get through the mob.
No, maybe do a late afternoon podcast, open up a great bottle of wine.
Yeah. There you go.
And just talk for a while.
Go. Just let him go.
Let him go. The Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Bar 2 will stop by at 9:30. We'll talk these college quarterbacks going to the NFL. Y'all know he's got his model, analytics, theory, and who does he like and not like. You may be surprised. He doesn't like many. And I know. He'll join us at 9:30. Show is brought to you by the amazing Purple Mattress from any of the Muskelly sleep stores in the state of Mississippi. Also, you need to upgrade the dining room, living room, TV area. That's all powered by Muskelly Furniture. Back in a second.